Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable members, allow me to dedicate our submission today as MK Party to our late Comrade Shezi. Ndisalamie wakubwa wa Tanzania walikuwa hapa karibu Afrika Kusini. Asante sana kulikuwa hapa Afrika Kusini. You are welcome to South Africa by MK Party, the official opposition. As MK Party, the official opposition party, let me indicate outrightly that we reject this 2026 fiscal framework and revenue proposal in its current form as presented to Parliament. Maybe before we outline our reasons to reject this fiscal framework and revenue proposals, allow us to register disappointment on the two committees of finance on their failure to use their legislative powers to amend this framework. All this happened after numerous calls and submissions from stakeholders, research think tanks, and of course MK Party and EFF parliamentarians. They said with one voice, this framework and revenue proposals are not adequate to address our beloved country's development targets. They must be amended. After, of course, taking note of the legislative provision that allows the two houses to refer these matters to the committees as empowered to introduce amendments inter alia driven by the confirmation that the fiscal framework ensures that the cost of what we spend today is not deferred to future generations. The current South African situation is different. Since 2018, National Treasury has ballooned the national debt by a staggering 3.3 trillion rands, from 2.2 trillion to a projected 12 trillion for this financial year. Honorable Speaker, what is concerning is that instead of growing the economy and creating jobs, borrowed money is mainly used for consumption, creating a mountain of loans that our children and our grandchildren will be forced to repay with their blood, sweat, and tears. The 1 billion USD COVID loan is a typical example. Imali Ngemlens, politically connected few stole this money without any accountability or repercussions. This framework says nothing about stopping this weird national treasury borrowing pattern. As MK Party, we contend that Parliament's committees must exercise robust oversight, ensuring that the budgets translate into tangible outcomes on the ground rather than merely validating executive priorities. The current posture of the committee, in our view, reflects a capitulation to the so-called government of national unity rather than independent, heightened scrutiny. As public representatives, Honorable Speaker, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be used as executives praise singers. As MK Party, we reiterate our assertion that this framework represents a failed economic strategy that will not deliver inclusive growth, employment creation, or poverty eradication. The framework sustains a low growth trajectory that cannot meet national targets for job creation, inequality, and poverty alleviation. The gross fixed capital formation, a key measure of economic growth, remains insufficient to unlock the investment climate needed for 4 to 5% annual growth, which is a prerequisite for sustainable employment. That dynamics are not adequately reined in by credible growth-enhancing measures. The debt stabilization targets appear misaligned with the structural reforms needed to unlock higher growth. On growth and structural reforms, it is our take as MK Party that the committee's approach understates the scale of state investment and intervention necessary in energy, transport, water, and private sector investment in logistics to unlock economic growth and industrial development. The framework ignores the geopolitical realities of global trade, including rising import tariffs and other frictions that threaten South Africa's export-led growth, limiting the state's ability to foster domestic multiplier effects. On revenue proposals and SARS funding, the revenue stance relies mainly on inflationary relief or baselines that do not address the structural gaps. The rejection of the 20 billion tax increase, while understandable as a political compromise in an election year, is purely so-called GNU theater and leaves credible gap in revenue sufficiency for essential social and infrastructural spend. SARS remains underfunded and under-resourced, compromising tax administration, compliance, and broader revenue collection efficiency. The refusal to explore wealth tax on high net worth individuals with asset values of 200 million or more projects a neoliberal stance that undermines the fiscal sustainability of this country. We are worried as MK Party that the current debt stabilization program, as currently framed, is inadequate and lacks the decisive interventions required to stabilize debt to GDP trajectory in growth-friendly manner. The main budget primary surplus targets are not underpinned by credible growth and efficiency gains in public expenditure. The current municipal allocations and social infrastructure format has failed dismally. Majority of municipalities are dysfunctional. MK Party demands a substantial reorientation of the fiscal framework to empower local government as the engine of social infrastructure delivery. Substantial increase of 14 to 16% in municipal allocations is essential to fund social infrastructure, subsidize poor metros, and stimulate rural and township growth and employment creation. Adequate funding is needed to stimulate rural and township growth and employment creation. Adequate funding is required for water, sanitation, social housing, electricity, transport corridors, and local economic development programs that directly impact communities and job creation. On social protection and service delivery, it is our submission that without a robust social wage and social protection floor, poverty reduction and inequality alleviation remain elusive. Fiscal space must be created to expand social grants, health, education, and public services, particularly in under-resourced municipalities. Honorable Speaker, MK Party reaffirms that without a bold reallocation of resources towards social infrastructure, strong municipal funding, and credible growth-oriented reforms, the 2026 fiscal framework and revenue proposal will fail to deliver on employment, poverty reduction, and inclusive growth. Parliament must reject or substantially amend the framework to replace the needs of our people, especially the poor and marginalized, at the center of fiscal policy. MK Party vehemently rejects this fiscal framework and revenue proposal in its current form. They represent nothing else but management of a declining and stagnant economy. We cannot, as MK Party, endorse nor celebrate stagnation. Ra leboga, Speaker.